Looks like it's time for another Dokkan Battle tier list. How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We got another Dokkan Battle video for you here today. We have quite a few LRs we're going to be adding into our tier list. So this is our July tier list for the Transcendent Dokkan campaign. As always, for our tier list, we do things a little bit differently here, right? We look at three major things when we assess our tiers. Right, we look at power, versatility, and consistency. With power, we look at how strong, how capable the unit is, what is it that they are doing, whether this comes in the form of offense and or defense, because sometimes those are so good they can eclipse other things. Think of units like, LR Tech Broly when he released, or things like Tech Beerus, right? Far and away, very, very strong, both offense and defense capabilities. The other thing we look at is consistency. What is the unit's role? Does it do it? And does it do it well? And how often is it doing it? And then finally, we look at versatility, right? How many different places can the unit be used, right? What type of teams can they be used on? Are they limited to a single team? Do they have multiple different teams? Are they versatile throughout different types of fights? Those are the three major things we're looking at. Now, with our tier list, as you'll notice here, what we do is we keep a running tier list. Rather than a traditional top 10, we manage the units within some tiers in order to give you players a better understanding of where all of these units fall in relation to each other. Because just because a unit doesn't make your personal top 10 or anyone else's for that matter does not mean that unit doesn't have a use. And I do find that when we limit ourselves to the mindset of a top 10 or even a top 15, people tend to block out the units that are outside of that, which I think gives a really false impression of units' capabilities and their slots within teams. So with that said, let's go ahead and make a quick update to our tier list. So we do have a tier list, but with Z at the top, but our Z tier is actually starting to get a bit crowded. So what we're actually going to do here is add a new row here called Z+. All right, and we're going to move some units before we add our new units in. We're going to move some units I believe kind of stand out amongst the pack from the Z tier. So we're going to go ahead and start with everybody's favorite, UI Goku. He is one of the few units I think that is versatile enough, is strong enough, and is consistent enough to warrant being outside of this. So listen, here's what I'm talking about. We'll just pull up his kit real quick. Like taking a look at the UI Goku here, right? He's got 100% dodge on his first turn, right? And you would think, oh, well, then I don't have to worry about, or then I have to worry about dodging after that. But he makes up for that by being able to switch into Vegeta. Now you've got 100% damage reduction. You're not getting killed with him. Or, right, you can play like a lot of people play, is switch into Vegeta right away because they are a turn 1 tag unit. You can switch into Vegeta right away and then have your 100% damage reduction. And he's pretty tanky defensively, so you could just float him, keep him off rotation until you're ready to switch into UI Goku, who is then providing crazy amounts of support for Realm of God's characters, and as well as dodge support, right? And you get to save his guaranteed dodge, right? So just that simple ability alone to be able to do that, I think kind of warrants him being in a tier above everybody else. Next up, we have the LRAGL Goma, right? If you guys have used Goma, you understand sort of what makes him as crazy as it is, right? 5 turns of 99% damage reduction is insane. Like you can't beat that, right? On top of being able to dodge to save that damage reduction for a little bit longer, right? A full dodge build can honestly keep you in a good position for a very long time. with this character, plus his ability to stack infinitely through his passive means that on any team that allows outside units to stack, or SA stacks, think like Battle of Fate with the Vegeta and Trunks, or gaining access to extra stats via super attack effects like the Daima Goku, he gets an insane buff from that, from those types of passives. So really, really good for him. And I think that, and plus having access to a giant form, right? We all know how powerful that is. That sort of justifies him being in a tier here. And then finally, the Fizz, Majin Vegeta. I know a lot of people are not that high on them, but he is really good. Arguably a very consistent unit, provided you build your team correctly, right? Having access to both Goku and Vegeta from turn 1. Goku having a great dodge chance as long as you can meet his conditions or his orb conditions, right? See, they are limited to orbs, right? And so what makes them consistent and very versatile is you don't have to build, right, super class or build, extreme class to meet either one's condition. You could simply bring proper orb changers and mitigate that way. And so I think that makes them a very versatile unit. They are a very strong unit. One of the few units who can come out the gate, right? Especially if you get his EX Super right away, throwing out over 100 million attack stats, right? That's something impressive to behold. So these guys kind of stand above the rest in the Z plus tier. So with that tier established, let's go ahead and look at the new units and where these guys are falling into the new categories. So let's start with the oldest unit on this list, the Beast Gohan, right? The last time we did our LR tier list was with the Tur list, so the next LR is obviously Beast Gohan. So Beast Gohan is an interesting one, right? Because we've talked about this guy before, but he is probably one of the most versatile characters in the game. Being able to slot just about anywhere and counter with tremendous power. Remember, tremendous is a 3x multiplier. After his 4th turn, he gets a ferocious multiplier on his counters, which brings him up to 4x multiplier on his attacks, right? And so, right, you basically have a character that can slot 2 and slot 3 pretty much whenever you need it and still deal massive damage, all right? His initial supers are dealing anywhere between 50 to 70 million, depending on your dupe count, and easily hitting over 90 to 100 million after on his active skill turn. His active skill turn provides him the ability to also slot 1, where that's where you tend to have a lot of your super attacks. So in terms of power, he's got it in spades. Arguably one of the strongest, right? Within the top 5 LRs of pure raw power, very few characters can match him. I mean, the characters that can match his potential, like even let's say you have 5 attacks in front of him, with that ferocious multiplier, the only characters who outclass him in damage is a Spirit Bomb, right? A fully fleshed out Spirit Bomb, a UI Goku on his active skill turn, and only his active skill turn, provided he gotten his build up first, and a Daima Goku who has gotten all of his EX supers throughout the entire fight, right? Not missed a single one, while also being buffed by the Super Saiyan 4s. So very few characters can match what he's doing if the setup is correctly. So he's got power in spades. Versatility, it's there, man. This character, being a Goku's family character, being a hybrid Saiyan, right? He's got pretty standard Goku's family Saiyan links: shocking speed, prepared for battle, legendary power, Saiyan warrior race, all in the family. These are easy links to activate no matter what team he's on. And the best part is he has no conditions. Unlike other superhero characters who tend to have some kind of condition, like even his best partners have superhero conditions, he is unconditional. He can go anywhere. Combined with adding buffs to Piccolo, which you wouldn't think is crazy, but adding buffs to Piccolo allows Orange Piccolo to be one of, if not the better slot 1 units for his team. Like, that's how important this damage reduction and attack and defense buff is for that Orange Piccolo. So being that he's doing that, right? He's got power, he's got versatility, and he's got consistency, right? His only inconsistency is attack placement via the boss, which in the grand scheme of things is not that bad because he's still chucking out over 120 million APT on a turn where he only gets even 1 counter. So, yeah, that's I think because of all of that, he actually does deserve a spot in the Z tier, I think. Again, our tiers within here don't really matter, but I do feel like he would be at the higher end of our Z tier. Right, Gohan goes into Z tier. Up next, we have the Part 1 Worldwide Easy A's, and we'll start with the Cooler, because I know this one's probably going to make a lot of people upset, right? But if we go to, let's pull him up here. All right. So if we take a look at the Cooler, right, in terms of raw power, right, if we're looking at power, he's got it in spades, right? That massively raised attack, that's 100% attack raise every single turn. That is an incredibly powerful skill to have, right? We're talking, you know, maybe a 20 million attack stat turn 1, but by the time he gets to turn 2, turn 3, he's easily chucking out, you know, 80 to 100 million, depending on your dupe level and support. That's kind of crazy, right? That's insane levels of power. So, right, we definitely got to give him some huge bonus in the power department. Versatility, right? He can pretty much slot into any villain team, right? Movie bosses, terrifying conquerors, that basically covers just about any and every villain you're going to ever run. So it's not that difficult, right? Links, right? Very basic villain links, big bad bosses, metamorphosis, strongest clan in space, thirst for conquest, universe malevolent. Any Frieza, any other form of Cooler is going to link very well with him, right? So he's got some pretty decent versatility, though he does benefit the most from being on the best Terrifying Conquerors team, which is the Metal Cooler team, though he does also benefit from CellMax's team in his domain. His active skill, having an action break, is also incredibly powerful, although you do need 8 attacks to perform it, so at least 2 turns of attacking. And then, of course, right, we have to talk about his consistency, right? Because while he does have power, while he does have versatility, it's his consistency that draws him down for me. His biggest problem is that for the amount of attack that he's building, the amount of attack that he's doing, he has no built-in crit, right? Which means the most amount of crit he can get via his hidden potential is 35 nodes, which equates to just, and 35 is pushing it, right? Like that's if you got God equips. So somewhere between 50 to 60% crit is what he can get through his hidden potential, which isn't bad, but it is inconsistent and it can harm you. I can't tell you how many festival runs I've lost because he just gave up on critting in the Gogeta phase. Like it's terribly inconsistent. And for that, I actually have to hold him back. So while 2 out of the 3 tiers clear, that one really holds him back. But it doesn't hold him back too much. It still puts him at the head of the S tier. Not quite in the Z tier level, but I think enough to justify being in the S tier. Still really good, still incredibly powerful. But I think the units above him are all providing significantly more to their teams, or at least have something to cover that inconsistency weakness. And so, with that said, let's move on to the next unit, Birdku, right? Birdku released, let's see if we can actually pull him up quicker here. Yes, here we go. Right, so Birdku released alongside him. He is a defense stacker, right? While Cooler stacks offense, Birdku stacks defense, right? And while I am a fan of offense, right? That defense stack is incredibly powerful. Like I'm talking for a character who is supposed to revive, outside of intentionally dropping yourself below 60% on turn 1, it is near impossible to kill him once he gets 1 or 2 of these off. I have had him live Super Saiyan 3 Goku's crit supers with 3 stacks above 60% HP, right? Like it's near impossible to kill him once he gets going with these. He does have a lot of things going for him though, right? You know, as long as you can be above that 60% and you can maintain his revival passive, he's going to be pretty strong offensively, able to strike at least 100 million after that, as well as guaranteed super attacks, which do raise his attack. And of course, he has a 70% chance to crit built in. So any additional hidden potential does help that out. Like the Cooler, he does have a active skill, not that powerful, but it does have an action break, which is very, very useful. So him providing a team protector through a revive, I think nets him a lot better in my eyes in terms of versatility and consistency, right? Power, his power is more so in his defense, right? Not really that strong offensively, but where he comes into play is that versatility. He is a Super Saiyan Goku, arguably one of the most versatile type of units in the game. His links are right near universal: Golden Warrior, Saiyan Warrior Race, Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, Prepared for Battle, right? These are very, very common links. And then, of course, right, adding a revive to his team, adding for some extra versatility. And like the only inconsistent thing about him is proccing his revive, which honestly isn't the end of the world. And so for that, he gets a spot in the Z tier. Moving on, before we jump into the last 3 units from part 2 of this Transcendent Dokkan campaign, I want to remind you guys, this is my list. This is the way I assess units. If your way is different, if your list looks different, then please, by all means, share your list in the comments down below. This is just my assessment based on the criteria that I have put forward. So with that said, let's hop back in and let's talk about the part 2 LR, right? The LR CellMax. LR CellMax is in an interesting position because in terms of raw power, he's got it, right? He is a very powerful card, right? On his turn 1, hitting around 70 to 80 million, depending on links and other characters. But on his active skill turn, which you usually want to use turn 2, right? He's throwing out 120 million plus attack stats with near invulnerability, right? He has that ability where he's invincible for his first turn with 999% extra defense, and of course it gets worse every turn, but he's also got 70% damage reduction rate at that time too, so like he's kind of insane. Plus his active skill, which provides an insane domain for movie bosses, 60% attack. So in raw power, he's got it. Where he starts to come into issues is his versatility and consistency. My biggest issue with his versatility is he is designed for a movie bosses team that does not yet exist. The Terrifying Conquerors variant under the Tech Metal Cooler works much better than his variant, and he's not even on Tech Metal Cooler's team. His variant of movie bosses seems to rely on the ability to rush the enemy, which none of the other movie bosses have the capability of doing outside of maybe Fizz Metal Cooler, and that's even then only after he revives. So he kind of seems designed for a team that doesn't quite exist yet. You add on to the fact that it is Tech Metal Cooler honestly struggles. No, I don't want to say struggle, that's the wrong word, but he is not as good without his second Metal Cooler running around to provide that additional support and or enemy buffs, or however you're going to use them, plus the team protector mechanics. You actually lose several team protector mechanics by running him as lead instead. So I would have to say that for that, he loses a lot in his versatility. Consistency, I mean, yeah, he's going to be pretty consistent for what he is. He does his job, he does it well. So, I mean, consistency's kind of there, but it's the versatility that really hurts him, and especially just not having a major team to run. His team relies on units that are honestly better off on Tech Metal Cooler's team. So, like the LR Cooler, he does fall into S tier, though I don't want to say he's all the way at the bottom, but again, this isn't particularly ordered, but you know, he's here in the S tier. So with that, we'll just put him next to Cooler, right? He's not terrible by any means, but his versatility is what really holds him back for me. But his consistency and power is pretty good. So that leaves the second worldwide LRs, the 2022 LR. So starting with the AGL Cooler duo, right? These guys are pretty powerful, right? They got 90% damage reduction on their first turn, which makes them, for pretty much every event, right? You know, they can kind of pseudo slot 1 in, but they are generally safe in slot 2 or slot 3 post super. They are designed to immediately transform on their 4th appearance, or after receiving 5 attacks and performing 3 or more supers, right? But no matter what, on the 5th turn, they are transforming. And that's really good because they lose most of their passive after the 4th turn, and which is fine, right? They kind of fix the big issue with them of not being able to do the morale boost. Once you do the morale boost, once again, you get 90% damage reduction on their first appearance, and then on their second appearance, they have an incredible attack 500%, which adds a lot to their offense for that turn, and only for that turn. You could potentially save this by making sure they don't attack, right? If you're in a fight where you can delay them that starting turn and not attack, then they won't proc this 500, and you could do that. But that's kind of hard to do, especially with some of the bosses with bigger HP pools, but it is there, and you could do it. So in terms of power, they've got it pretty well, although there's a lot of other units on the Movie Heroes team that can do a little bit more than they do, while also providing other things like support or team protector mechanics. Versatility, they are pretty versatile, right? They are pure Saiyan, so they can fit on a lot of Saiyan's team, but because they are a Joined Forces team, and specifically a pre-Android Cell Saga Joined Forces, they are very limited to their teams. In fact, they don't have any 220% besides Beast Gohan. None of they don't fit any of the Pure Saiyan, Majin Vegeta's Pure Saiyan's 220. We don't have a full power 220. We don't have, Joined Forces has been untouched since 2024. So it's pretty much just Movie Heroes because these 3 haven't gotten leads yet in the 2025 and beyond meta. So that's kind of where they get hurt on their versatility because there aren't too many teams they can be run on. Consistency, they are significantly more consistent than they were before. So I do give them some points for that. They are a decent option. They are consistent. They are powerful. There's just so many more that are doing more than them. So same with the CellMax and Cooler. These guys probably get dropped into the S tier. I'd almost shift them down this way, but we'll keep them in S tier for now because I do think they are really powerful. And then finally, that brings us the Metal Cooler. Fizz Metal Cooler is incredibly powerful. I mean, post revive, he is he is untouchable. He can live Gogeta's super. He can live Vegeto's super. He has a nullification on unarmed supers, which means a lot of the major bosses currently can't touch him, especially because that is now guaranteed after his revival, after he gets fully built up, right? He can also dish out, over 100 million attack stats on Tech Metal Cooler's team. So that's pretty impressive for him. I do kind of like how they fixed a lot of his problems. Although he can have the same problem that Birdku has, where it is very difficult to get him to revive because he's so strong. So in terms of power, he's got it. Versatility, much like the STR Cooler, very versatile, can fit into any Wicked Bloodline team, any Terrifying Conquerors team, any movie bosses, and in fact, he is much less reliant on Tech Metal Cooler than STR Cooler is for that additional support. Consistency, incredibly consistent, right? One of the few characters who hits all 3 brackets with no qualms in this, and for that, I do think he gets the placement right up in the top of the Z tier. I don't think he's quite at the level of Z+, but he is close. I will say that. He is close. So this is kind of what we're looking at with our current tier list, right? I did want to address a few points here of moving some units up and down based on the improvements, right? Like, for example, I do think with the added buffs, you could argue that this guy has moved up on the movie bosses team. He's incredibly good on those teams, and same with Orange Piccolo. I do think Orange Piccolo has kind of gotten a bump up thanks to that. I do think Omega has kind of fallen down, and this isn't necessarily because of him as a unit, but more so the bosses are kind of I mean, his team could still work, but I do think he's kind of been pushed down out of that. Same with the Fizz Gohan and the Kai Goku. Kai Goku would probably be right outside of Cooler, in my opinion. But the rest of these, this is kind of where I'm falling at, personally. I think Gogeta here actually provides a lot more value to the team than Cooler does, if only because he has those added team protector mechanics. Although Cooler is great for offense. But, you know, you might just keep him here towards the top. But this is kind of what I'm looking at right now, personally. So I don't personally like doing top 10s, but I will close out by saying that, hey, you know, if this were to be a top 10, it would probably look a little something like this, with Goma, UI Goku, and Majin Vegeta kind of fighting for the top 3. I don't think placing any one above the other is necessarily wrong. Followed by Fizz Cooler at 4, Daima Goku at 5, the 4s at 6, Beast Gohan at 7, Turles at 8, Int Gohan and Trunks at 9, and coming in at 10, the STR Blues. And honestly, I would probably personally move Birdku up over him, the STR Blues. However, I know a lot of you guys would chop my head off if I did that, so we'll leave it at this. But with that said, right, this is kind of what we're looking at for our tier list. So again, I would like to remind you that this is my personal tier list based on my assessment. Remember, power, versatility, and consistency. If you guys have a different version, right, or you think somebody else needs to be moved, let us know in the comments down below. So guys, that's it for the video. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in our comments, of course, let us know how you would rank some of these units. Do you prefer our style of ranking, right, to keep everybody in focus and see where they are in relation to each other? Or do you prefer a top 10 list? If so, show us your list in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.